What's good with y'all tonight? Hope you're tight and out of sight. All right. I'm so stupid, man. It's your man Donald King. I hope all of y'all are doing well tonight. I'm out here chilling. Had a busy shooting schedule this past weekend. I decided to shoot 2 podcasts with folks who I've been meaning to catch up with for a minute. I got a chance to actually sit down with a panel of brothers, and I actually want to run that back with a couple of other sets of people. I'm trying to. There's a couple of y'all out there who I definitely want to sit down and talk to in front of a camera, and I hit you up and let you know when. Actually, it's a lot of you, really. As many people as I can, but there are a few here in the Dayton area who I want to reach out to and who I want to chop it up with sooner than later. So yeah, man. It's really interesting watching yourself back on camera too. I watch myself after all these podcasts. You have to understand that it's like when I enter into a flow state, and it's like, again, I'm just reading bodies of principles, and I'm just sort of navigating through conceptual fields, and you see my hands doing all the this and that and all these other things. I don't know how I project the audiences, right? So sitting back and looking at how I actually impact on people, how I project to people, is really interesting to study. It's very interesting to study yourself. And you get a chance to see your mannerisms, and then how you either meld into or stick out from a group of individuals. You get to see how you are sort of inspired to act around different types of energy. How you inspired to act around men, how you inspired to act around women, how are you inspired to act around groups of people versus individuals. How do you project to people? And I study myself a lot of times. I study myself. And I don't mean in that I, sit down and pore over the things that I say in an effort to self-idealize. No, I like to know, like, what's the engine behind a certain motivation towards something. You understand what I'm saying? So, like, okay, so it's like I like to watch mixed martial arts. I like to watch mixed martial arts, but I don't like violence. It seems like a paradox, right? How do you like something but dislike it at the same time? So it's like, I had to sit back and I look at, like, what are my motivations toward wanting to watch it? And it's like, I like, it's not necessarily the competition aspect of it. It'd be more along the lines of people pushing themselves past adversity and really being settled. And what's up, good brother? I won't overanalyze my approach, but yeah, thank you for the sage wisdom there. The reason why it's like I like MMA has to do more with perseverance. How deep did you dig to put yourself in the situation to come out on top? I like seeing people push themselves, not necessarily prevail over others. In mixed martial arts, prevailing over others is the product of pushing yourself. Sometimes it's luck, but you're not going to get in a cage with someone who's never thrown a person who's never thrown a punch isn't going to get in a cage with someone who practices the entire time and be able to hurt them with anything effective. You have to develop those muscles. You have to develop your reaction time. You have to develop your timing. And this is years and years of discipline so that when you are in the ring, you can enter flow state. A lot of it is it has some sort of spiritual elements to it. Like, because these people who are highly, highly disciplined in this skill set, they enter flow state. And what ends up happening with them and in boxing and any sort of martial art, once you fall out of flow state, once you stop like just being in the flow of things and you think about it for a second, or you stop to self-idealize, that's when in that split second someone capitalizes on your distraction and you're out of there. It's a great metaphor for life. Being dialed into reality necessarily entails learning how to enter flow state in all things. That's what I do. A lot of people, they ask me, what are you talking about tonight? I had my brother Mustafa hit me up a little bit earlier. He's like, what are you talking about tonight? I'm like, I don't know. But even when, like, the people who I recorded with this past weekend, I recorded with Gabe and Adrian and Dunduri and James and let's see, Gabe, Dunduri, James, Adrian, and then there was me. So it was 5 of us, yeah. So we recorded, and I'm like, I don't even know what we're gonna talk about. We just get into it and we go. Last night when I'm hanging out with Sister Brooke, I'm like, I don't even know what we're gonna talk about. And I looked over at her right before I hit go, and I'm like, you wanna talk about this? Yeah, sure, why not? And that became the subject, and we just flowed through it. But in all things, in order to be truly effective in any sport, in any of these, in any category, in any lane, you have to be disciplined enough to reach a point of surrender, like any musician or any of these other things. So it's really interesting to see what I do when I enter a state of surrender and I'm not really paying attention to what's going on. I'm just sort of chilling and just coasting through it. It's kind of like I'm imagining what John Coltrane felt after he went and listened to Giant Steps after he recorded that album. You know, it's like he sat here and he was like, I'm sure when he was in the process of doing it, he didn't have time to think about what he was doing. And when he was done, he went and listened to it like, that came out of me? Wow, that's insane. It's wild. Styling. Anyway. First of all, to everyone who recorded with me over the course of this last week and even weeks before, Sister Candace, Sister Brooke, my brothers, Gabe, Adrian, James, Donald D. I appreciate y'all, and I look forward to shooting with more people moving forward. Let's get into tonight's subject of the evening. We're talking about stop feeding aggression, and a question that was posed to me by my brother Mark earlier. Why is corruption even a thing? I want to start with Mark's question because it's a really, really good question. Why is corruption even a thing? If you guys are aware, you know that I tell you that corruption is the entity. It is an entity. That phenomenon is the phenomenon that humans would rightfully, or that religion often refers to as Satan or devil. It's Satan or devil is sort of an anthropomorphizing of corruption. Corruption is the great creator of imbalance. It is the intention behind the spread of imbalance. Like reality, it is an entity. It's an entity. It's a living, sentient, and self-aware. It's not a system so much as it is a mode. All right? A mode is like a cheap version or imitation of a system. You understand what I'm saying? A system is sort of holistic and integrated and sort of self-sustaining. Systems can balance themselves, whereas modes cannot. Which is why reality is capable of balancing itself, but corruption cannot. Anything that is born from corruption is incapable of achieving balance. Because corruption itself, it is a creator of imbalance. So, to Mark's question, why does corruption exist? Why does the devil exist? Why did God create the devil? God did not create the devil. Reality did not create corruption. Here's what happened, all right? So, as I've mentioned before on several occasions, everything in reality, it adheres to a very basic frame. It's bodies inside of bodies, inside of bodies, inside of bodies. hosts inside of hosts, cycles inside of cycles, principles inside of principles. It's like this almost is seemingly infinite levels and layers of bodies which join together to create what we understand as reality. Right? Now, how corruption occurred is okay, so reality, it is the source from whence principles of natural organization emerge. Somewhere on the higher scales of plane. And by higher scales of plane, let me explain that to you real quick. So I want you to look at it like this. Look at your body. Look at your hand. Now, you are literally a scaled version of a universe. You're a scaled version of a universe, but you're a structural building block belonging to an even larger organism. Look at natural animals in this planet, right? Like, they are structural building blocks belonging to the body of this planet. This planet is a natural structural building block which belongs to the body of the solar system. The solar system is a natural building block belonging to the scale, the I guess life form that scales between here and the galaxy. But these are all bodies inside of bodies. They just represent higher scales of organism. Somehow on the higher scales of organism, one of the creatures that we belong to, or not creatures, one of the life forms, one of the organisms we belong to, it got injured. It got cut. Let's say it's cut or damaged or something to that effect. Well, what ended up happening is the sort of system of natural principles that would allow for it to heal, wherein the cellular building blocks that were forcibly separated would ultimately find their way back into a state of harmony, a state of balance, and a state of proximity. A glitch occurred in some of these structural building blocks as they were trying to reform, and that is the beginning of corruption. It's very much like what happens to a body with a disease, right? You get injured, your body doesn't understand. Something happens so that the alignment of the structural building blocks and the principles that allow for them to exist, they get damaged, and then all of a sudden they glitch. When they glitch, they become corrupt, and then once they corrupt, that corruption starts spreading. This is the way it works at a mechanical level, right? So, this entity, corruption, it's not even its fault that it's this thing, right? It is a glitch that reality is trying to correct. And this glitch, it's trying to find its way back to natural organization. It's trying to find its way back to reality, but it's trying to do that by mimicking reality, by reverse engineering reality, and trying to imitate reality on several levels instead of learning how to and coming to understand how to simply sync back up with the system. And if you scale that down to how humans perform at this scale, at this level of existence, right? It's how all diseases function. So diseases, like, just look at what humans do. Instead of actually syncing up with nature, we study nature, then create technologies that mimic nature. We create maths that ultimately serve to help us analyze deconstruct and reconstruct nature and or repurpose things, these same principles, they apply to all parasitic, viral / corrupt species. You mimic nature as opposed to actually understanding how to sync up with it. And in the process of mimicking and trying to reverse engineer nature, you end up destroying nature and creating imbalance. So the devil, corruption, it is a glitch that needs to be corrected because it spreads, it consumes, it destroys. And it does so out of a grand state of ignorance and maliciousness, out of narcissism, competition, and aggression. This is where your Satan comes from. It's just a glitch. A glitch that causes so many problems. So many problems. But it's just a glitch. Hence, reality does what it can to reverse the damages caused by the glitch. To reverse the damages caused by the glitch and to neutralize the glitch as best it can. But any agent that becomes infected by the glitch and or which internalizes the glitch and negatively impacts onto reality, for all imbalances created within systems, for all aggression and animosity you carry via corruption into reality, all the imbalances get charged back to you by way of how the system of reality works. So if you serve as a function or an agent of corruption, everything you do to create imbalance in reality gets charged back to you. Which is why entities such as the one I currently host exist. Help you learn how to get right with reality. Brother Zakia comes in. Zakia! What's good with you, boy? Let me see. What is this? I was trying to download the movie Nobody, and this came up. Might as well watch it. Are you calling me Nobody? Zakia. No, I'm just messing with you, man. Yeah, it's fun. It's interesting. It's interesting. So that was a great question, Mark, and hopefully I answered it well enough. I'm sure that I'll be able to explain it more moving forward and, with subsequent questions that serve to expand the discourse on the subject. But, it's just a glitch. It's a glitch that needs to be corrected. And the system of reality works, and it's a system of balances. And when you're in the flow of the system of balances, you're good. When you create imbalances within the system, you're not good. And everything that you do in the way of creating imbalance, it gets charged back to you. Hence why individuals who are agents of Satan and or agents of corruption, they all perform corruptly. Look at the people at the top of society. Look at all the imbalance and suffering they cause just trying to satisfy themselves. Satisfy their interests, needs, wishes, hopes, and designs. Look at how far they would go to destroy reality to realize their own happiness. In what world does that go unanswered? If you allow corruption into you, if you allow competition, aggression, and vanity to rule your outlook on life and to steer you and to create imbalances in a system your thinking isn't even developed enough to grasp in its entirety and never could be. Well, reality has to purge the corruption from you, doesn't it? And just think about that at a mechanical level. If you are an agent of corruption and corruption lives in you and this glitch can spread through you, reality has to do everything it can to make sure that both you and that which performs through you are neutralized and purged of imbalance. It's mechanical, guys. It's mechanical. Society is being spun by the worst of humanity. Yes, brothers IKEA. It is society. Well, here's how it works. Society is an entity, and there's some framing around this. So what you have to understand is that every disease is comprised of two parts. So society is a disease to the body of this planet. It's a disease to the body of Earth. Now, every disease is comprised of two parts. You have the virion, and then you have the central hive mind, or the consciousness, sort of living through and performing through this collection of organisms, right? So society is what religion refers to, ironically, as God. It's imbued with the same attributes as Santa Claus and every other god. It's basically this character. It's a personality that sees you when you're sleeping and knows when you're awake. It's a life form performing through humanity. Like, we are automatons through which an entity manifests. Now, society, it is a structural building block belonging to an even larger life form. So what you need to understand is this goes up to the universal scale of plane. At the universal scale of plane, what we have is a conjoined twin situation about to happen. All right? A conjoined twin situation about to happen. So right now there's a parasitic twin, and it's been cannibalizing, burrowing into, and transforming the body of its sibling, right? The parasitic twin universe is what all viral parasitic life forms within the body of this universe, it's where they come from. Reality, the system itself, it's sort of isolated, it's sort of locked in on this parasitic twin universe, and it's like, look, I'm giving you an opportunity to become uncorrupt because I know that it's not your fault that you were brought into this state and condition, which is why entities like the one that I host show up. It speaks to the structural building blocks of the corrupt life form, and it says you have an opportunity to either remain in an aggressor state, in which case I'm going to cut you from the body of this now conjoined universe and purge all the corruption out of you, or you can transfer over to a neutral state, in which case I'm going to fuse you to this other universe, and you guys you're gonna live as a conjoined twin. But society itself, it does not emerge from a human imagination. Society doesn't emerge from human imagination. It manifests through human imagination. It existed prior to us. It has the ability to unilaterally act through you, assuming you are narcissistic, competitive, and aggressive, but you do not have the power to unilaterally act against it. You can only act against it from a collective standpoint, if that makes sense. So yeah, let me see. Brother Joshua Jones comes in. Satan means adversary. To properly test oneself, an adversary is necessary. Corruption a byproduct of unlearned lessons. You know what? It's corruption is a byproduct of unlearned lessons. I guess you were typing on your phone, it did the autocorrect thing. I think that hosting corruption fits with what you're saying. Corruption is an entity unto itself, but when someone becomes a host and or an agent for corruption, then what you said, I feel applies. Do you understand what I'm talking about? It's like, so it's kind of like, you can look at any iteration of corruption. Like, look at, for instance, like a rapist. No, every person has the capacity, every male and female for that fact has the capacity to be a rapist. But do you nurture within yourself sort of attitudes and outlooks that lean you in the direction of becoming a host for this variation of corruption? Every person can be a racist. Every person can be a nationalist. Every person can be a host for corruption. The question is, do you turn yourself into fertile breeding ground for corruption? It boils down to what you practice doing most. You know what I'm saying? Let me see. Yeah, I saw it is. Let me see. Brother Absurd comes in. How does reality utilize corruption? Reality does. Wait. That's a great question. Let me think on that for a second. Reality doesn't necessarily utilize corruption per se, but because corruption occurs within reality, reality can use and intervene and interact with and through corruption via corrupt agents. Do you understand what I'm saying? So reality has the power to tap a person on the shoulder who may be corrupt and give them a moment give them an intuitive moment of clarity wherein they do something that performs above the level of self-interest, if that makes sense to you. So society doesn't benefit from corruption because corruption is, for all intents and purposes, parasitic. You can't benefit from a parasite unless you're thinking parasitically. Like if I'm dealing with a parasitic person in a relationship, I can't really benefit from them unless I have some greater sort of corrupt agenda that they can only serve as a pawn within. You understand what I'm saying? So because reality, the system itself is not corrupt, it doesn't benefit from corruption in one way, shape, or form. Corruption benefits from society. I mean, not from society, but from reality. Corruption benefits from reality. Reality does not benefit from corruption. It can use agents who are, for all intents and purposes, corrupt. However, it's not benefiting from corruption in that way. And hopefully I explained that well enough. Let me see. Brother Zakia comes in. All jokes aside, I appreciate your my insist or insight. I don't know which one it is, but either way it goes, I appreciate you as well, brother. It's my dog. Brother Jones comes back in. Look into the sea carpet or black carpet. It's an organism that consists of multiple different forms that operates as a unit. It creeps across the floor of the sea and consumes everything in its path. Sounds a lot like society. Yeah, because it's all parasites. They adhere to a core modal logic. It's like when you look at a parasite in general, look at it like this. A parasite is an incomplete life form. So it has to latch on to, exploit, and benefit from something it does not give back to equally. Parasitism is described as a symbiotic, non-mutual relationship between species, individuals, or groups, wherein one party, the master or parasite, lives and benefits at the other or others, the hosts and or slaves. All right? So it's like when you understand that basic framing, then you look at a disease and it's comprised of a bunch of virion. The virion in the disease, they move into a body and they start transforming the body and they start tearing the body down and building things up for themselves. They live and benefit at the expense of the body that they invade and co-opt. They live and benefit at the expense of the body they invade and co-opt. And every parasite lives and benefits at the expense of the host. Until it ends up destroying the host and destroying itself along with the host. That's how diseases work. That's how this parasitic twin universe would work. While it's in a state of corruption, it consumes, it spreads, it destroys, and it's trying to live and benefit at the expense of the healthy universe. Parasitism is an extension of the greater body of corruption. I haven't actually looked into the other extensions of the greater body of corruption, but parasitism and corruption are, for all intents and purposes, mutually inclusive. Let me see. So we caught up with our questions, but this is the way that this stuff works at a mechanical level, guys. And ironically, this sort of transitions over into the other point that we're going to talk about in this podcast, and it says, stop feeding your aggression. Stop feeding your aggression. Stop feeding your competitive spirit. Stop feeding your narcissism. Narcissism, competition, and aggression, they're mutually inclusive things. They are the trinity through which corruption enters and spreads throughout the soul. I have friends. People who I call friends, who are racists, who are nationalists, who are religious ideologues. And they go around and they're constantly angry. They're mad at the world. What do they do? What do? They surround themselves with people who tell them it's their right to be mad. They surround themselves with people who tell them it's their right to be angry and their right to demand justice and their right to get what they desire. I was talking to a buddy not too long ago, and this guy, he's a big fan of, internet personality who happens to sort of reinforce biases that he holds towards individuals of specific groups, of a specific group. Always angry, always bitter, but constantly feeding that aggression, constantly feeding and nurturing that competitive spirit, constantly feeding the self-idealizing. Which is why reality does not give two shits about what your justifications are when you act under aggression and you create imbalances. And you don't even have to look at reality in the way that I describe it. This is reality as you understand it now. You can even look at it within the throes of society. If you get mad, you practice being mad, and you go out and do something because you were angry, it's your fault. Period. Look at these cops out here who get their kicks by swimming in these corrupt police cultures. And they go out here and they target individuals who happen to be minority or on the social fringes, with violence, with murder and intimidation. These corrupt cultures produce corrupt people, and these corrupt people are constantly circulating stories wherein they're the victim and they are justified in taking their anger and frustrations out on people who they feel morally superior to. There was a video that came to my mind a bit earlier. It was something that happened within the last 3 years. It was a black healthcare worker who was trying to help a person with special needs. And this cowardly asshole who had a gun and a badge shot this person while they were laying down, their hands in the air. And the man who was just shot said, "Why did you shoot me?" And the officer said, "I don't know. I don't know." And he was right. He was right. He didn't know. But I'll tell you this much right now, something I can guarantee you is that he surrounded himself with people who reinforced this story that it was his right to be angry at people of color. It was his right to take his anger and frustration out on people. And he practiced being angry. And he practiced being judgmental and aggressive. He practiced being corrupt to the point where someone who was laying on the ground with their hands stretched out in front of them and nothing in their hands gave him justification to shoot. He practiced that corruption. He practiced internalizing. He made an impact on reality by constantly feeding his aggression. You see, when you feed your aggression, and you're in a hostile state already, what does it take to trigger you? What does it take to push you over the edge? Look at all these people in poor areas who some social injustice occurs. All of a sudden they go ham and they start destroying shit. A lot of times it's not even the people who experienced the injustice themselves. It's just people who carried around this aggressive and competitive and selfish spirit in them, being opportunistic, just waiting for something to give them license to be selfish and to take their shit out on something. They probably listen to music that continually reinforces an aggressive mind state. They're probably constantly, and through no fault of their own, immersed in cultures that reinforce the necessity for competition over and ahead of thinking and honesty. They listen to things that tell them to self-idealize and that reinforce narcissism and vanity. Also that they're this ticking time bomb waiting to go off the very second an opportunity presents itself for them to be a dick. This is the reason why when people bring their competitive spirits to me, I try to give them a fair chance to disengage because the entity I'm hosting doesn't stand for it. Your vanity, your aggression, your competition, it's nurtured within you. The system of reality itself, it views it as corruption. If your soul is corrupt, if your heart is corrupt, you must be cut away and purged. Me disengaging doesn't have anything to do with me looking out for my own interest. It's trying to spare the amount of damage you incur as the seconds pass for allowing yourself to be used as an agent of corruption, for allowing yourself to be used as an agent of the devil. You practice listening to voices that tell you to be aggressive. I have a homeboy who recently went through some stuff wherein he lost some relationships because people who he'd been listening to all these voices tell him it was his right to be angry at a group of people. And he's constantly listening to himself. I keep telling y'all, stop listening to people like Umar Johnson. Stop listening to people like Kevin Samuels or Tommy Sotomayor or Tommy Loren or Ann Coulter or Rush Limbaugh. Because the only thing they're going to do is they're going to tell you, hey, you're right to be angry. Here's all the reasons you should be angry. Ben Shapiro. Here's all the reasons you should be mad. Here's why it's our right to take our anger and frustration out on somebody. It puts you in an aggressive mind state. And then all of a sudden you're walking around in this aggressive mind state and you snap on somebody you should not snap on. But you did it to yourself by constantly consuming things that reinforce your aggression and your competitive spirit. You put yourself in a situation just like an MMA fighter to just react when an opportunity presents itself for you to be a dick. Just like an MMA fighter, just like a boxer, they train. They live, sleep, eat, breathe, dream. Whatever mixed martial art is their sport of conveyance, and they practice being in these situations so much that they hit flow state and they just react. This is what happened to this dude. yelling at and blowing up on the wrong one. All because he's always listening to someone tell him it's his place to be mad at that group. If you go around surrounding yourself with groups of people who constantly reinforce your desire to get justice and who don't encourage you to instead think, reason, and be honest, you are responsible for what you do. Because you practice being that way. If you constantly surround yourself with people who tell you to be scared, if you do something out of cowardice, you're responsible for what you do. No one made you hang around cowards or internalize stories that cowards circulate among themselves or take part in circulating the stories yourself. You are responsible for the negative impacts you make on reality, period. Especially under the guise of corruption, under the influence of corruption. You know why? Because you don't have to let it into you. You don't have to practice being narcissistic. That's a choice. You don't have to practice listening to people who reinforce stories about how fucking great you are. That's a choice. You don't have to go around trying to compete against everybody and prove that you're superior to others. It's a choice. The more you practice it, is the easier it becomes to do. The easier it becomes to do, the greater the chances the devil will not interact, it will perform through you and use you to create damages and messes that you're going to have to pay for on the back end. This isn't a game. Yeah. That's how it goes, man. That's how it goes. You can't be in the habit of listening to people who are always trying to put you in an aggressive mind state. Stop listening to motherfuckers like Tommy Sotomayor or Umar or David Duke or any of those other things, because you sit down here and you listen to David Duke tell you, you're superior. You're the superior race. They should be inferior to you. They should be licking your boots and cleaning your houses. They should be slaves that you just beat on to take your anger and frustrations out on. Listen to Donald Trump or any other aggressive beta. Pied Piper you into behaving aggressively against targeted groups. What happens when you bring that shit to the wrong one? What happens when you bring it to an entity that just happens to be performing through a person who happens to be the color you've decidedly taken the stance against? No one makes you behave, perform, live, or think narcissistically. It is a choice. And every choice in reality is met with a consequence. Who are you attuned to? Are you attuned to corruption? Or are you attuned to reality? Stop listening to people who put you in an aggressive mind state. Because when you walk around with that toxicity in you, it's only a matter of time before you blow up on someone. If you live in status beliefs, then you may not care if you blow up on certain people, but you never know who you're aggressing against. Some things hit back harder than you can imagine. It's best to not take that toxicity to anyone. Learn how to manage your shit. Learn how to manage your emotions. But stay that stupid need to compete against and feel superior to others. Everything has a consequence, guys, which enter the concept of free will. We each get to choose which master we'll serve. Do you serve corruption or do you serve reality? Do you restore, heal, and help bring balance and understanding? Or do you fight for division and fight for aggression and rage and for fun? Do you try to understand or do you try to be right? Do you try to make things better or only make things better for you? Are you for mutualism or selfishness? It's a clear line. It's a clear line. You get to choose which side of the line you're on. But if you're on this side of the line, if you choose corruption, it isn't reality's fault for what happens to you. It is a natural consequence. So anywho, man, I had a good time shooting with all these people this week, man. It's insane. I know that a lot of shit that I had to get into is going to be kind of deep. Some of it is hard to stomach and swallow. Some of it seems fantastic and to only matter on levels of reality that don't pertain to you in the moment, but all of this pertains to you. So I get that this shit can be really intense, guys, but we're here now. This is where we are. Like it or not, we have to proceed forward one way or another. You get to choose how you proceed forward. You get to choose. You can double down on your pride, retreat into your inner story, try to make all the agreements you've made with yourself reality and truth for everyone and all things, or you can come out of your pride, try to understand how things function and exist mutually independent of you and your experience, and start syncing up with reality. But this is a choice, people. This is a choice. We each get to make it. Every single one of us. So yeah, man. I didn't even know what I was going to talk about tonight, man. We're sitting here, we're chilling, kicking it, politicking and parlaying. That's such a good time talking shit. Yo, it's like I guess that's why everybody likes Drunk Avatar. Drunk Avatar is fun. But I still got a job to do, people. I still got a job to do. But I still like to have fun. And something I want y'all to understand is y'all are my people. I genuinely love y'all, man. I appreciate you. I love you. I want to uplift you. I want to help in whatever way I can for as long as I'm in this body. I want to see you do good. You know what I'm saying? So I put my foot forward and get it done. I didn't even feel like shooting tonight, to be honest with you. It's like I'm tired. I want to take a nap. I still got to bake a cake and maybe make some cookies and do a little business before I hit the hay. But yeah, man, I'm very fortunate. Something I need you guys to understand is that I'm never speaking from a space of judgment because I'm not above anyone. You can't be, not in this role. You have to, it only works. It only works if who is being used has enough in common with those trying to be reached that it's possible to bridge that gap in communication. So yeah, it's really interesting, man. But hopefully I'm not fucking this up. no instruction manuals came with being an avatar. So I every day I just pray to be honest, stay in theme with what I'm doing, and just make the best impact I possibly can. Hopefully I'm doing all right. I mean, it's like sometimes you're swinging blind, but hey, you got to show up and do it anyway. Man, this 3 podcasts in a row in the last couple of days, man. It's wild. That's wild. I didn't expect it to be like that. But yeah, we're here now. We're here. Step into it, man. Like I said, cowardice is a fear to face reality. Cowardice is a fear to face reality. If you're an aggressive coward, then you go around trying to attack reality and subdue reality to your inner story, to your inner dialogue. If you're a sort of beta coward or a passive coward, then you run from reality and try to hide from reality and barricade yourself within cocoons of escapism, and in groups and cultures and belief systems and things that just create a space for you to be comfortable within. You got to stop being cowardly. You got to step into reality. Deal with it on its terms. It makes you strong. It makes you tough. It builds you up. I'm speaking from a space of experience on that one. It makes you tough. It toughens you up. You hear me? So anyway, we'll go ahead and we'll get to wrapping this one up. For those of y'all who chimed in and who commented, I appreciate you. I love you, man. Y'all already know what it is. You already know what it is. I appreciate you. Yo, if y'all get any sort of benefit out of what I'm doing, and you want to help me reach a larger platform, you can always throw a little love at your boy. You can Salt Bae me. You can see me on Cash App. Donnie King is my handle on Cash App. You can also join the Patreon family if you like. At Avatar Cycle XIII. That's Avatar Cycle 13. All proceeds go to building this up to a larger platform, getting her done, trying to help as many people as I can. For those of you all who've contributed to this point, I'm humbled and I thank you greatly. The fact that I reach you to a degree that you want to help me move forward, it gives me some indication that at least I'm not completely fucking this up. So I appreciate you and I love you, man. I really do. And also, you guys know I'm shooting this on Facebook Live, but you can also catch me on Instagram, and I upload to that place. I need to get back to doing Instagram a little bit more, but I'm also on YouTube. All these podcasts that you guys see me shooting, they actually get flied over to the YouTube channel. This is podcast episode 54. This is episode 54, man. This time is flying. Time is flying. I ain't buying. I'm just trying. I've been trying to rhyme for some reason. I don't know why. You can check me out on my I told you all these get flied over to YouTube, and you can check out the series over there. But also, I'm on Medium. I post content to that platform fairly regularly. I'm a little out of practice as of now, but I'm always creating so much content. I just haven't had time to I just haven't taken time. Let me say that honestly, to just fly a lot of content over there. But it's growing by the day. Like, put a lot of stuff out. If nothing can be said about me, I think at the very least I can be called prolific. Prolific meaning high content producer. So, yeah. But anywho, is anybody out, before I get offline, is anybody else out there watching? You got any questions? Is anything I can hook up for you before I'm out? Give it a couple seconds and we'll go back over to the mainframe. And we'll see if anybody has anything else that they want to add. Hopefully I hit the questions. Sometimes when you guys post questions over here, I don't see them until after I've closed the live stream And, you know, it'll come back and like, oh, you had 14 comments you missed. And I'm like, what? It's crazy. So hopefully it won't be 14. Sometimes it's like maybe 2 or 3. It's hyperbole, but even still. Yeah, man. Yeah, and it's like, you know, while I'm waiting on any comments to come in, additional comments to come in, we'll circle back to this point. Like you practice being aggressive. You practice being narcissistic. You practice feeding your appetite for competition. These are all appetites and you feed them. It's no different than shooting heroin in your arm. It's no different than shooting heroin in your arm. You might be an addict, but I mean, you're kind of an addict because you practice shooting heroin in your arm. If you get away from it, of course there's going to be a withdrawal phase. Of course there's going to be a withdrawal phase. You get away from shooting that shit in your vein and it's going to be some consequences. It's going to suck for a little bit. It's kind of like whenever I go vegan, and I'm vegan again. I've been vegan again for like 3 months or so. Whenever I go vegan, I go through that meat withdrawal. Oh man, it's bad. You're sitting here and it's like every steak is like, done. I want you. I need you. And I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. And then you come across all the recipes that you want to try. And you're like, ooh, I haven't eaten pork in, I don't know, like a decade or something like that. No, it's been longer than that, like maybe 15 years. I haven't eaten pork in like 15 years. But every now and again, I was hanging out with Brother Gabe, over at Brother Gabe's, man, and they had some Islander food over there. And there was so much pork over there, and I was looking at it, and I was like, it's kind of like me looking at a woman. It's like you sit here and you're like, you don't even know. The hunger is real. The hunger is real. But and you know, you're gonna go through a withdrawal whenever you stop consuming aggression porn. You're going to go through withdrawal whenever you stop consuming competition porn. It's going to suck. But I'll tell you this much. As annoying, as frustrating, as painful as it may be to go through that withdrawal, the consequences you incur for being in a corrupt state far outweigh any discomfort that you'll have to experience for letting go of things that sort of exacerbate and reinforce this mind state within you. Like, man, giving up, it's literally like giving up meat. Like, you sit here and like, oh man, I'm hurting so much. Oh God, I want that piece of chicken so bad. And let's just look at it for real, like, let's say you did have that piece of chicken and that's just what pushed you right over the top to having that heart attack. What's the trade-off? Natural consequence is far worse than the discomfort you have to experience for giving up a vice. Always. Always. Yo, man, I appreciate y'all. We coming up on 58 minutes. We're coming up on 59 minutes. I wonder if I should ride this out to 1 hour. Oh, can I ride it out to 1 hour? I mean, I got a minute and 10 seconds left. So I might as well. It's like I want to make sure that's like I close it out at an hour, though. So, yeah, I got 1 minute left. What can I say in a minute? Again, I appreciate all y'all. It's all love, man. I appreciate you. We rock. We get her done, son. And other such catchphrases I use. I don't know why I be having catchphrases, man. That's weird. Like, I always gotta have something that sort of puts it over the top. I didn't have a lot. I didn't have as many interactors, and I didn't have as many interlocutors tonight as I'd hoped I would. I wanted it to be a robust conversation, but I guess people are probably tired of seeing my old mug. Like, man, we see you every day. We've seen you every day this weekend. What is wrong with you, Donald King? It's not for attention. I'm doing this because I got to, man. So, but yeah, man, it's a wild ride. I couldn't have made this shit up, man. I didn't expect. I thought anybody who believed in this stuff was dumb, but turns out it's all real. Y'all have a good night. I'ma holla at you.